The problem with us is that when you bastardize something so much, and you go on to say that if economy is just about borrowing money, then everyone can manage an economy. This is a statement you go out making, and then you tell the good people of Ghana you have the solutions to manage and to move away from borrowing, excessive borrowing. Then less than 2 months in power, you are borrowing 67 billion. That clearly would raise eyebrows. Now, the justification, unfortunate justification, is that when you come to power without anything, what do you expect? It's not true that emoluments were not paid. As a matter of fact, we approve expenditure in advance of appropriation, 68 billion for the government. No emolument of any public sector worker was withheld. As a matter of fact, outstanding arrears for school feeding program, among other debt, were paid. So it cannot be true that they were certain, if you like, recurrent expenditure or goods and services that were outstanding, the government did not. Again, you go to borrow 6 billion in your in the first month or in the first week, about. When January revenue alone is 6 billion, average of 6 billion monthly revenue, government is supposed to have some 3 billion with the government. That is one. Two, the government left some buffers for you. That money was around 3 billion. That is money left for you. The government has some proceeds in the Eurobond proceeds account, the IMF extended credit facility account. Aside that, every single account, public account, was wiped clean by this government. As a matter of fact, recently, even as even the poorest of institutions, the National Film Authority, recently complained that their account as well was wiped clean. So if a government goes around cleaning accounts, that every single penny found in any public account is taken away, and up to now, the government has not come to account to the good people of Ghana through my exercise, through my operation, through my desperation to gather more money to satisfy goods and services and other obligations expected of me by the Ghanaian people. I was able to realize A, B, or C, or Z amount from that exercise. I think such a government cannot be claimed of having nothing, because money, we know there are some institutions, public agencies, who have a lot of money because they were not spending in accordance with the amount appropriated to them due to procurement challenges, among other factors. You went and then cleaned all those accounts, virtually swept all accounts. As a matter, they mopped those accounts. It wasn't even sweeping, because sweeping, there can still be some dust left by way of revenue. This government mopped those accounts and took away every single penny in those accounts. Such a government hasn't accounted to the good people of Ghana after 2 months of such an adventure or such an exercise. That government cannot complain that they did not have any money, aside what we know as of certainty, because based on data available to the Minister of Finance as they were leaving office, money that was in their coffers. So it cannot be true that the government came and met nothing. It's true of the fact that there are some maturing debts in the T-bill sector that government has to meet. But that's always been the part of government. When they borrow, when they say that we borrow so much from the domestic debt, was it meant for what? It was meant for the 122 billion, some of which were maturing. As a matter of fact, because of the longevity of our tenor, almost every single loan that was contracted by the previous Muhammad Mills administration were paid by this government. Because if you have a loan agreement ranging for 5 years, maturity in 10 years, it is your next government that's going to pay it. So those money we are seeing also borrowing, some of it was also used to pay those loans, but they were accounted as part of the borrowing of the government. There was no technical term like net borrowing. Now they are now trying to introduce into the financial lexicons and wanting us to accept saying that this is net borrowing, we have only increased. In any case, if your net borrowing is positive, it means you are adding to the debt stock. That's what it means. So aside the fact that you are taking money to pay maturing debt or maturing T-bills, you are also adding to the debt stock. At this rate, every single day the government borrows 1.2 billion Ghana cedi. At this rate, imagine, by the time we finish the year, how much the government would have borrowed from the domestic market. There's even this, which my colleague Gideon Boko even noted on the floor of Parliament yesterday. There's even this mismatch between the rate they are borrowing in the TZ market, and if you juxtapose that with that of the monetary policy rate as well as the inflation rate. If your T-bill rate is 19% and your inflation rate is 23%, which commercial bank will go to give you money that the value on that return is far lesser than the value, the price of goods and services? For instance, average increase in price of goods and services, the value of your money is 23%. I mean, the rate of which prices of goods and services increases is 23%. Your monetary policy rate is 27%. Always, the treasury bill rate will have to fall in between, a mid or average between these two particular figures. But they have their figure low. It is either because some people had their money locked up in their cupboard, excess liquidity. They were not with the banking sector or somewhere. They were locked up in their bank and they are bringing it out. Because they now know, okay, elections are over, there is no chaos in the country, and we are the possibility of us sending our money, sending our money abroad is not more there, so we'll give it to the government. That possibility is there, but will you sell the money lesser than the market value? That is an issue that the central bank probably will have to come and explain if there's any manipulation of the rate. If it's not, well and good. But I have never seen, and if you look at the trajectory of the financial, if you like, the money market, how money is traded, and whether the discount rate or interest rate on your treasury bill, that rate is abnormal. We are raising questions, and our duty is to get the right questions asked and the answers provided. It is not also a point of fact that power sector debt was, as we said, this government came to power with a debt. Government spent $6.2 billion to keep the lights on. It wasn't that the debt was not being serviced. It was not the case that the debt was not being serviced. As a matter of fact, every single contractor arrangement that was put forward by the previous government was either take or pay. And excess capacity alone was costing us at a point $8 billion, excess capacity. But the PERC pricing regime, excess capacity, someone has to pay for it. The consumer doesn't pay for excess capacity. No consumer, because PERC will not allow you for you to factor into the utility pricing arrangement power that has not been consumed. But there you have an agreement signed by the previous government that says that
this 8 billion excess capacity that the MPP communicators have been talking about. Alasan Sweeney has asked several times the MP for Tamale North to show us evidence of it. Till today, we still haven't seen that evidence.
The government provides evidence unless Alasan Sweeney is trying not to accept that evidence. They have been questioning even the issue of excess capacity. That has been their first point of call. That there's no excess capacity. Where is the excess capacity?
Yes.
But in the books,
it's been in contention.
Yeah, in the books of the ministry, and I'm sure now that they're in government, I wonder if they will come and tell us there's extra capacity payment. In any case, if there's not even excess capacity payment, forex losses alone is putting a huge toll on the debt burden of. One could ask, now who caused them? Right? I mean, genuinely so. Okay. But if you have your utility, no independent power producer prices our their products in cedi. They are all in dollars. So anytime there is variation, someone has to pay for it. And the government pays for that. So if that government was able to keep at least the power sector debt to reduce marginally from the time they took it and kept the power on for 8 years, that government cannot be condemned for creating mess in the power sector. At least they kept the debt level to even be reduced sustainably. And mind you, it is not in cedi, it is in dollar. That amount of exposure, about the 2.9 billion of exposure that the energy sector was exposed to, in today's term, is going to be higher in Ghana cedi than it was then in Ghana city. Because then they were using an exchange rate of around 4%. Now they'll be using something 4.5, 14.5 or 15. Definitely, it is the same debt as left, and it has even been reduced marginally, but this government will be blamed for leaving huge debt because the exchange rate depreciation. So it cannot be true. That government must be commended for at least keeping our debt in fixed terms constant and even reducing it by a marginal amount, and again keeping our lights on. You can't come to power and start giving excuses that you are not responsible for the doomsday. When the NPP was in power and there was doomsday, they were called upon to fix it. The government's responsibility is to fix doomsday. Whether you are 1 month in office, 1 day in office, 2 weeks in office, your responsibility is to fix it. Wherever you are going to get money, just like the previous government got money to fix it, fix it. I will allow for the benefit of. But the president said, I will allow for the benefit of governance that. I will allow for the benefit of governance that intermittent power outages cannot be done away with. Once in a while it will be done. But just like the MPP government, it was there. And we are complaining on this same platform. Anyone who spoke against it should be speaking against it now. Anyone who had problem with intermittent power outages when MPP was in power should have problem now. You cannot all of a sudden not to have problem with such. Of course. And now trying to rationalize why they should be forgiven. Because that was a problem then. People had to pay for it. People had to take the fall for it. This same government must take responsibility. You cannot then all of a sudden try to have rationalization and justification for whatever wrongs is being occasioned. We'll give them the honeymoon. But this is not a country that can afford the luxury of time to lead us to go on honeymoon. Because our problems are daunting. Our problems are daunting. There's a problem. No, there's not a problem. There's not a problem. No, there's no problem. There's a problem. There's no problem.
You are in power for 8 years. And you are criticized for being in power for 8 years and not being able to solve problems. There's a new administration which is there for 2 weeks. You say, use the same yardstick to judge them. They've been in power for 2 weeks. How does that make sense?
No. That's not the point I'm
making. How does that make sense?
That's not the point I'm making.
You're saying that those who criticize your administration must use the same yardstick to judge a 2-month-old government.
I'm mentioning in reference to a specific issue.
Whatever problem there is.
Not whatever the problem there is. Not whatever problem there is. Not whatever problem there is. I'm saying that when the government was in power.
You have criticized your administration in its 7th year. In its 7th year for not solving a problem.
As a matter of fact, our government, you criticize our office
in this 2 months. For not solving the problem that you didn't solve.
You criticize the MPP government in its first year. Okay.